Hello, and welcome to the online version of how to set up your home for a cat. So I am Billy Reynolds, and I apologize you can't see me, but you can see my reflection, and I apologize for the glare. We're just, in this time of COVID, trying to get information to you guys the best we can. So this is kind of a first time online thing for me. So hopefully we'll learn, and hopefully we'll be back in person as quickly as possible. So, all right, let's kind of get started here and go through. Do know that we are going to have a Facebook Live event for questions. So this is just for you to view. You can watch it over and over again, and so that you have questions by the time that we have that live event. And just look for the Cat Care Society website for when that live event will be. All right, so setting up your home. So what we're going to talk about today is how your cat views territory and why that's important to them, how to access or assess your home for getting use out of those towers and scratchers and all the other kind of cat beds and things that we buy for our cats that they don't always use, how to provide territory in the appropriate places, and how that can help to reduce stress and increase positive interactions, especially for those of you who have multiple cats at home. So territory, we talk a lot about cats being territorial, but what does that really mean? So territory consists of everything your cat needs to survive. So that's food, water, shelter, and space. And we'll talk about each one of those individually today. And then also it's important to know that cats protect or keep their territory by using pheromones. Pheromones can come through cheek marking. They can unfortunately also come through urine marking. Also visual markers, so that would be like when your cat scratches on something, they can leave a visual marker behind, but there's also some pheromones on that as well. And then physical threats, so this is when cats posture, like maybe that Halloween pose we see where they arch their back up or puff up their fur really big, or their tail gets nice and puffy. All right, so kind of talking about how our human behavior sometimes gets in the way. So where do we go wrong? The main thing to think about with territory is the cat's individual perception and their image of survival, and not what we think that they need. So oftentimes we look at our cats, and unfortunately we often equate them to being cute little humans in a cat outfit. And that's just not true. Cats have needs that are totally different from what human needs are. So when we try to put our own perception of, oh, I've provided a home, you've got a roof over your head and you're safe in here, that doesn't always meet all the cat's needs. So establishing territory. The first question we have to ask is, can we do that for the cat? And unfortunately, the answer is mostly no. So we can provide the things, but we don't get to say who gets what. So if you've got two cats at home and you buy, this tower, this scratcher for Fluffy, and Furball ends up taking it over, there's no way for us to say, no, this one's for Fluffy. So unfortunately, what we have to do is just provide enough so that everybody gets an opportunity to have their own. And it might also be about where we put those things, but we'll kind of get into that. So what we can do is build that environment that they will use. So we have to, one, pay attention to what they prefer. Do they like something to be in certain parts of the house? Do they only hang out in one area of the house? Do they like something maybe they're more sunny? Or if you've got multiple cats, you've got a cat that maybe likes to be away from everybody else, or cats that like to be around everybody else. Where do they spend most of their time? Where are they avoiding? So if there's places that they don't go, one, we need to assess those areas for, is there something going on in that area? Especially if it's a common space, like maybe a bedroom, not so much like a basement that's unfinished. Of course, there wouldn't be anything down there for them to go to. But if they're avoiding a common space, then we kind of need to assess that for, is there threats in there? Is there maybe some issues going on between other cats? And then conflict areas, so that kind of goes in with the same thing. If you've got major areas, like specific areas where your cats tend to have conflict. So a lot of common places are maybe like stairs or tight hallways or doorways. Looking for, we can put territory in those spaces also. So also we want to look at those odd behaviors, such as if a cat never looks out the window. That's unusual. Cats like to look out into their world and see what's going on. If they're not spending much time in certain areas, we want to kind of look and try to determine why they might not be looking at those windows or spending time in those areas. And sometimes it is just a matter of there's nothing in there for them to perch on or spend time, and nothing that's kind of comfortable, I guess you could say. All right, so the environment for a cat. So again, it's food, water, shelter, and space. And we're gonna go through each of those individually here. So food, very important. That's why I put it number one. They need it. They can't survive without it. Cats can't go more than a few days without eating before they start to have major shutdown of their organs. So pretty important. There are a couple of ways that people handle feeding, either just schedule or no schedule. I'm not here to tell you necessarily one is better than the other. Your veterinarian might have more of a preference for you for that, especially if you've got a cat that is overweight. But it is a little more natural for a cat to have a schedule. You can also kind of think of this as, cats in the wild, they hunt and they have a schedule, and that schedule revolves around the natural world. So when the mice and the birds are out and the bugs, that's when they have their scheduled hunting, which is also their feeding time. So in the wild, they don't have, just a bowl of mice hanging out waiting for them to eat and graze on whenever they want. So that it is very natural for them to have a schedule. So putting them on the schedule would meet their natural needs. Now again, if you've got a cat that you free feed, to change that could cause a lot of issues between you and your cat. So if that's something you need to do, that's something that there's information on there, and your veterinarian could probably even help you on how to transition them to a scheduled feed from a free feed. Don't just make that sudden change right away. Where to feed? If you've got one cat, feed them wherever you like. But if you've got more than one cat, then we really have to be a little bit more strategic about where we feed them. Each cat should have their own feeding station, so for sure their own bowl or dish. But you also want to put distance between them. And ideally, if you've got multiple cats, then you probably want to have multiple feeding stations around the house. Now, it doesn't have to be completely around the house. You can maybe have, if you've got a larger kitchen dining area, you can maybe put a few around there. But you want to have them spread out. And that's just, again, for that territorial, we don't want to create competition between your cats. So, in the wild, when cats hunt, it's not a group activity. They don't come back and eat together and hang out and have a meal. It's a very individual thing that they do. So you want to make sure that you provide the space for your cat to also have their own independent meal without feeling like there's another cat around that's going to come and take their food. If you do have cats that do any kind of bullying or moving them out of the food, then you might want to think about giving each cat an opportunity behind a closed door where they don't have to worry about the competition of another cat coming in. What to feed in? So a lot of people use, especially if you use dry food, we use bowls. Again, this isn't, I think, my top thing that I would have anyone change, but it is just something to be aware of. There's a lot of cartoons and things like that out there about how when there's still a little bit of food left in the bowl, a cat will come and meow as if there's no food at all in the bowl. And often what's happening is that there's something called whisker stress. So when a cat puts their head into something and they start to get too much tension on their whiskers, they experience whisker stress. And so they won't continue to put their face into it because it irritates, I guess, maybe their whiskers. So if you've got that issue, maybe you want to think about feeding on a flat plate, or there are whisker stress bowls out there. They are often more expensive than just your generic kind of food bowl. But if you could also just look at them and kind of get the idea of what a whisker stress bowl looks like, and then maybe just find that in a typical human dishware. So maybe just a larger rim bowl or something like that. And then the last thing about food is motivation. So if you did want to use or need to do any kind of training or enrichment, Food is the number one motivator. So this goes back to the free feeding versus not free feeding. If you are thinking about potentially training your cat or using food as some sort of motivation to change behavior, for cats that are free fed, this can be much more difficult to achieve because they have free access to food. So why would you work for it if you could just go over and get it on your own? So that's just something to kind of think about if that's one of your goals for your cat. Okay, water. So this is next because it's also one of the top important territories for a cat. They can't survive without this either. So food and water, number one, number two. So bowl or fountain, ultimately either is fine. The most important thing here is you just want to keep the water fresh. So if you are offering water from a bowl, just make sure that at least once a day you are refreshing it with new clean water. Fountains, I think, are a great way to offer water for a cat. It just keeps the water flowing. And so again, kind of going back to a cat in the wild, they're going to drink where there's running water versus where there's stagnant water, because stagnant water can hold bacteria, whereas fresh flowing water is usually clean. So that's just kind of meeting their natural need by having flowing water. They automatically kind of know that that's a clean source versus a bowl that just isn't moving at all. Again, nothing wrong with having a bowl of water. Just make sure that you are putting new water in it every day and that you are keeping that bowl nice and clean. A ceramic bowl or a stainless steel bowl would be the best because those hold bacteria the least, but you still want to make sure you're cleaning those pretty regularly. I would say I would clean it at least twice a week. Where to put it? Again, water is a huge resource, just like food is. So you want to make sure that you've got multiple waters around the house for cats so that every cat can access it without feeling that competition from another cat. How many kind of depends on how many cats you have. I would say I would have at least one water opportunity for every cat. It also kind of depends on what the relationship for your cats is like in the house. If your cats all get along and you have a smaller space, you might not have to have one per cat. But if you've got a lot of conflict amongst your cats, then I want to make sure you've got plenty of water opportunities spread throughout the home in different locations so everybody has access to it. And why it's important, I think we all kind of know water's super important for cats, especially for keeping their kidneys nice and healthy. And that's a huge issue for cats is kidney disease. So we want to make sure that they will always have access to fresh, clean water so that they drink plenty, they stay hydrated, and they keep healthy. All right, shelter. So this kind of starts to get into more of the cat towers and scratchers and fun stuff like that. So shelter from a cat perspective is protection from the elements, and more importantly, it's safety. So it's a place to hide when needed, a place to sleep when needed, and a place to watch their world safely without any fear of threats. And then space is the last kind of aspect of territory. And we have to think of space as more than just the floor plan of the house, the blueprint of the house. We want to consider all the different aspects of a living situation. So that's types of space, location of space, and even stimulation of space. We're going to get into each of those individually. But just know that no matter what size or type of home you live in, all these territories or all of these aspects impact the way your cat will establish their territory. All right, so types of space. So from, again, a cat perspective, there's horizontal and vertical. And we wanted to make sure that we supply a good variety of both of these. And then within those, there's also high perches, middle perches, and low perches. Now, if you happen to watch Jax in the Galaxy, he kind of talks about like tree dwellers versus maybe a bush dweller kind of cat. So same kind of concept where some cats like to have surfaces that are really, really high. So if you've got a cat that maybe like tries to get on top of your kitchen counters or hangs out on top of your fridge or goes as high onto surfaces as they can, then you want to make sure you're providing appropriate high perches for them. And if you got cats that kind of maybe hang out on the back of the couch, backs of chairs, things like that, those are kind of more those middle perches. And again, making sure that we're providing surfaces in areas that provide that level for them to go to. And then there are some cats that really like to just kind of hang out on the ground. So this is where we can use kind of some of these round beds that are still provide a sense of safety. What I like about this one in the picture on the left is that it's open on both sides, so the cat can see what's coming on either end, but they also have a way to get out on both ends, so they're not trapped in it. So it's just something to consider also when looking at different cat products that you might want to bring into your home. This product here on the right, and I'll talk about, when we do our live event, I'll talk about specific products and give everybody recommendations for things, because there's lots of things out there that are good, and there's lots of things out there that aren't so good. And so I kind of really try to, as a cat professional, try to make sure that I'm aware of lots of different products out there to meet everyone's, both their cats and their home's needs. But this product on the right, it's a product I love. So I have it on my bathroom door in my master bedroom. And the reason I've put it here is that there is a litter box in that bathroom. And then doorways, as I mentioned earlier, are kind of tight spaces that can create conflict. And so I don't want to have conflict around an important resource like a litter box. So we put it there so that the cats, if somebody's trying to come in or out of the bathroom on the floor, there's another cat that could potentially, one, go up it to see, hey, is somebody in the bathroom before I go in there? And if so, it provides them a place to hang out that's not on the floor, so that whatever cat's in the bathroom can come out, and then that doesn't create any conflict as they're trying to cross paths. But it also is a nice place that provides a perch because it overlooks our bed. And then there's also, not too far away from this, we have a patio door in our bedroom, so they can look out the window from this also. So this one thing provides multiple different purposes for our cats. All right, so location of space. So part of this, I wish I could tell you that there are just rules on where to put things, but a huge part of this is just your observation of your own cat's preferences and where they like to hang out. Something to kind of keep in mind, is kind of associating this to when we want to shop for real estate on our own. So, when we tend to look for homes, we want to look for places that are safe, maybe have lots of good view, let in lots of natural light, those kinds of considerations. Our cats kind of want the same things. So, a lot of people are hesitant to put, as you can see in this picture on the right, a lot of people are hesitant to put something like a cat tower right in their patio door. But that's also where your cat wants to be. So, I've got a patio door there, and then just a window on the far right in that picture. So, when it's an average day around the house, that's where the cat tower resides. Now, when we want to use that patio door, of course, the cat tower gets moved. Or if we were to have, a gathering in the house where maybe I didn't want my cat tower just hanging out in the living room, I would put it over there in that corner so that if the cats wanted to come out while we had guests over, they were still welcome and there was still something familiar to them. But I also don't have this huge eyesore of this carpeted tower that's just, right in the middle of my living room. So something to kind of consider is, for your average day-to-day activities in your home, maybe you set up your house to meet your cat's preferences, but then also make it so that when you're having company over, that you can kind of tuck those things a little bit more out of the way, that are still accessible to your cats if your cats are social when people come over, but that maybe are aesthetically a little bit more pleasing to you when you have company over. Because I definitely, as a cat owner and someone who enjoys home decor, it's difficult to find cat pieces that look nice. And that's just kind of where we're at with cat furniture right now, which is unfortunate and irritating. So it is a little difficult to find things that, that aren't covered in carpet, which then of course become covered in fur. And if you do find them, and they're often very expensive. So that's just kind of where we're at. Of course, if you're handy, you can definitely create your own kinds of towers and scratchers and things like that maybe meet your home aesthetics. But for the most of us, we're kind of stuck with these less than attractive carpeted cat towers. But they're important for our cats, and so it is important to provide them. But again, they don't always have to be out, when you've got company over. So it's just something to kind of to keep in mind, because I do hear in my profession a lot of hesitation for maybe getting cat furniture because we either don't want to look like we're the crazy cat house or these things just don't aesthetically look very pleasing to us. So it's not really, I hear you, first of all, if that does apply to you. But we also have to make sure that we're meeting our cat's needs. So kind of trying to find that balance between the two. So two things also to remember are pathways and levels. So we want to make sure, cats kind of, for the most part, they're very routine animals. So they often move around your house in similar ways. And especially when we're talking about getting to important resources too. So to the food, to the water, to those perches, beds, places they want to hang out. So if you've got multiple cats in your house, pathways is an important thing to kind of keep in mind, that we want to make sure every cat feels as though they can get to that important resource without necessarily having no other option than to come across another cat. So in part of kind of figuring out where to put things and how to put things in your house, just keep in mind pathways, and if you can add different levels to make these pathways to these important resources more accessible. And hopefully I can kind of clear that up with any questions in the live event, because it's a little difficult to explain without, using my hands. So then levels also, just in this picture on the left, two different levels to it. So a cat can be on the bottom one, a cat can be on the top one, without, feeling as though they're right on top of each other. Same with even the picture on the right. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different levels on that tower. For levels, it kind of depends on how many cats you have. If you've got more than 3 cats, it is difficult to find towers that would accommodate all of the cats. But if you got, I would say at least have one more level than cats if they all want to be in that same tower. All right, so kind of this is something that I would normally have open discussion for in my class. So this is a picture of my house, and this is kind of my downstairs area. And we talk about how does a cat see it. So hopefully you kind of look at this and you're kind of answering in your head a little bit of how a cat might see this. So my answers to that are, this is an open space. And for a lot of us humans, we like open space. It's not very cluttered. It looks really nice, at least for me. But for a cat, this can be really intimidating. So there are 2 doors on the right that are open into bedrooms. So a cat coming down here that might want to go all the way straight wouldn't be able to know if someone's going to come out of those 2 bedroom doors. To the left of this, there's the door to the garage, so that's in their door, and then there's stairs that go downstairs into the basement, so that's in their space that somebody could come out of without a cat knowing. And so the only place my cat would have to be is on the floor or on these stairs. So this space can be just a little bit scary and a little bit intimidating. Now, when we change a little bit, so that's a tower that I consistently have in this space, and as soon as I brought it out, my cat got on top of it. So you can maybe see that black spot on him. I'll try to take the glare away. So now I would ask, what's different now? And hopefully you can kind of answer that a little bit in your head. But so what is different is now I've got a perch, and it's got 2 different levels on it. There's also on the bottom, there's a round hole that's got openings on both ends, so that allows access into that back bedroom door, where a cat can go through this tower to get into that, or they can hang out in that tower and see if anybody's in either one of those bedroom doors. Then it's also a perch so that, when they hear the garage doors opening and know we're coming home, it's a safe place for them to hang out that isn't on the floor. And it also provides a nice view to the stairs to the basement, so that, because we do have a litter box down there, so that if a cat is down there, again, the cat doesn't have to cross pathways, so they both aren't on the floor. And even though, again, from a human perspective, that tower itself is maybe 3.5 feet tall. So that first perch that the cat's on right now is maybe 2 feet off the floor. So for us, we're like, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but for a cat, that is a significant enough height difference that they see themselves on different planes. So there's not that competition. If a cat were to be coming up the basement stairs right now, that cat wouldn't feel threatened by the cat on the tower as they might feel if that cat were actually on the same floor surface as the cat coming up from the basement. All right, so to get a little bit more into kind of multi-cat homes, you really want to think of, is there enough territory for all cats to survive? And this is another area where we can't think like a human. We have to think like a cat. So oftentimes we look around and go, yeah, we've got enough. It looks like enough to me. But if you're having any conflict or having any urine marking or potentially some inappropriate scratching, then you probably don't have enough territory for all cats to feel as though, from their point of view, there's enough to survive. So the first things I would look at is those 2 top important ones, food and water. So if you don't have your food spread out throughout the house or enough food stations, I would add those. Same with water. And then space. Space is another, if they all want to be in the same sunspot, if you've only got sun that comes in one small area in your house, in the afternoon, and they're all trying to huddle in there, then get some multiple levels, put a tower or something that allows different levels in that same space. Along with space is litter boxes, and this isn't, I have my own class on litter boxes, so you can look for that in the future. I will be teaching that either online or hopefully in person at Cat Care this year. So I'm just going to get a little bit into that. But litter boxes is another important territory, just like bathrooms for us. Always kind of the general rule, I'll get to this, the general rule for cats is 1 more litter boxes than the number of cats. So if you have 2 cats, 3 boxes, 3 cats, 4 boxes, and so on. Now that can be intimidating or even annoying for some people, but also for some spaces, it's really hard to do that. If you've got a little apartment, but you've got 3 cats in there, trying to find a space for 4 different litter boxes can be challenging, if not even impossible. So overall, if what you have right now is working, I don't think you need to fix it. But something to kind of keep in mind is, can you spread those litter boxes throughout the house? Kind of getting back to just like food and water. If you can put them in multiple locations and give different access points to them, then that can help to reduce conflict, especially if you are having any kind of litter box issue. Again, this is a whole topic in itself. So if you are having questions about litter boxes or want more information on litter boxes, then look for that class that we'll have at some point this year. Okay, so now we've got our house set up, we've got all the important things, but there's still this one thing of mental stimulation, and this tends to be what's lacking most in most cat owner homes. When I go in and I'm hired as a consultant, this is the thing that I recommend everybody have, and almost everybody's lacking it. And I think it comes from, we have this idea that cats are independent, they are aloof, they don't need anything from us. We just have them provide food and water, maybe a scratching post, maybe some of the other things I've already talked about, and they're good to go. But really, cats are very intelligent creatures and they need a lot of mental stimulation. So it is true that they aren't quite as much work from a social component as a dog might be, but they still require a mental stimulation to keep their brains active. And the more we can keep a cat's brain active, then the less behavior issues you're going to have. A lot of behavior issues come from just lack of mental stimulation and boredom. So there are some really easy ways to just add mental stimulation into your space. And then if you really want to kind of take it to the next level, there are some more time-consuming, I suppose, things that you could offer. So clicker training is something that is a lot of fun. I've already taught that class this year, but we're hoping to have a clicker training class offered at Cat Care Society, where you'd actually bring your cat. But there's lots of resources online. There's some good ones and some bad ones, so if you want some good ones, check out our live event so I can make sure to get you those good resources. But then also play therapy. So play is another topic all in itself that I've already done a whole class on. So there are ways to play with your cat that are therapeutic, and then there are ways just to provide your normal average cat toy. But play therapy is creating a routine play outlet for them using a toy that mimics a natural prey, and then afterwards providing that high protein snack. So basically, play therapy is providing a hunting session on a daily routine for your cat. Food puzzles, so adding food puzzles, and this is an easy way to add stimulation into your space. So food puzzles can just have treats. This is if you free feed and you want to get away from the bowl but still have food available all day. This would be a great way to kind of make that a way to add mental stimulation without changing, your cat having free access to food. Or it can just be something that you put a few treats in and you give them, maybe a couple of times a week to just give them something fun to do. And I'll give you a resource for that here in a second. And then Cat TV. Cat TV is just my way of kind of basically describing what's going on in this picture here. So providing, bird feeders outside. Of course, here in Colorado, especially, the squirrels will get to it anyway. That's what's happening in this photo, is the squirrels eating some of the bird food that has fallen on the ground. And then my kitty, the patio door, is just loving it. So it provides a nice, the cats get to watch the wildlife outside. If the wildlife gets close enough, the cats kind of get to have a little hunting session without anyone getting injured, wildlife or cat. So Cat TV really is just, like fish tanks, bird feeders, just giving your cat, even TV, there's DVDs and different things you can put on TV for your cat to watch wildlife. So just things for your cat to kind of look at that you set up for them. All right, so kind of the last here, just a kind of list of resources and kind of tips and pointers for this class, because it's kind of a lot of information and I kind of went through it a little quickly. So don't remove the old and bring in the new. So if you've already got stuff and it's working for your cat, don't remove it. If you feel like if you need more, then slowly bring in those things, and make sure you kind of bring in new things. Let your cats get used to them before you kind of remove all the old things. Cats don't take to change very easily, so you want to make sure you make those changes gradually. If it's not broke, don't fix it. A lot of people come to this class and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to change everything about how, what's going on in my house and how I interact with my cat. And that's not accurate. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But if you want to kind of make some of these changes and additions to your house, then just do it slowly, and kind of see what works for you and your cat and your home. And then some just quick resources for you. And again, I can give you more when we do that live event for questions on this. But so goodkittybehavior.com, that's my website. I am available for questions. I'm currently on maternity leave. I've got a little baby, and so I'm not doing any in-home consults. Of course, right now, nobody's doing any in-home consults. I am doing some very limited video consults for people. So if you had some questions or something that was easy that I felt like I didn't need to be in the space, I would consider doing a video consult for you. To get more information on food puzzles, foodpuzzlesforcats.com is a fantastic website. I highly recommend it. It tells you how to get started. It gives ideas for how to make your own food puzzles with common things that are just in your house. But then it also shows you different videos of different products that are available for sale, that are food puzzles that are for cats, created for cats. Fundamentallyfeline.com is another great website. That's another behavior consultant, cat behavior consultant. She's got a lot of great videos on her website. And she also sells a lot of different cat products for scratching, climbing, things like that. Pinterest, so if you are kind of a DIYer and like to make your own things, then check out Pinterest for a lot of great ideas for toys, food puzzles, even how to make your own fountain. House Panther, that's another website. The creator of this, or the owner of this website, she works closely with Jackson Galaxy to what they've kind of termed catify spaces. So they've got 2 books that are really fantastic that I also typically bring to this class. One is called Catification. The other is Catify to Satisfy, I think is what it is. So both of those books are fantastic because they give a lot of examples on basically all the things I've talked about today of how to create levels, pathways, different products to accommodate different types of cats, whether they like to be up high or down low. So those are great books that I recommend if you're kind of looking at changing your house up a little bit. To just give you some kind of visuals on different ideas of how to do it. IKEA is a great place for super cheap shelves. So if you are looking to add some kind of vertical spaces for your cats, but don't want to make too much of an investment because you aren't quite sure if they'll like it, I recommend IKEA, super cheap. The only thing is with IKEA shelves is they typically are a very slick surface, so you might need to cover them or put some sort of fabric that's attached to them so that when your cats jump on them, they don't slide right off. And then, of course, the internet, the magical place where you can find all kinds of different cat furniture and different puzzle toys. Wayfair is a nice one that has started carrying a lot of pretty decent looking cat furniture at, I think, pretty affordable prices. So that's a nice outlet also. I don't think there's anything wrong with shopping, at big pet supply store here locally, like a PetSmart or Petco. Their inventory usually is a little bit more limited, but at the same time, you also get to look at it in person. So this is kind of benefits to in-store versus online. Okay, so that was kind of quickly the presentation on how to set up your home. So again, we are going to have a Facebook Live event to cover questions. So do look for that on the Cat Care Society website and social media for information. And then hopefully we'll see you soon at that Facebook Live event, and I can answer all your questions about how to set up your home since we're all stuck at home right now anyway. Take care.